In yesterday's reading from 1 Timothy, we learned that the Christian life isn't about acts of conspicuous piety or of dramatic forms of asceticism, but rather it embraces the fullness of ordinary life in all its mundane elements. Today we see this very thing played out in one of the most mundane areas of life, the care for widows in the common life of the church. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, May 31st, 2024. If there is any group that receives more concern in the Bible than any other, it is widows. In several instances, the law in Deuteronomy requires that the community must care for the widows. For example, every third year the people were to bring a tithe of their produce to support the Levites, resident aliens, orphans, and widows. And the letter of James puts it this way: religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to care for orphans and widows in their distress. The writer of 1 Timothy also addresses the issue of caring for widows, but he adds a couple of layers of nuance to the discussion. He distinguishes between different kinds of widows to help Timothy discern which ones would truly need help and which ones might be guilty of trading on the sympathy of the community. He writes, "Let a widow be put on the list if she is not less than 60 years old and has been married only once. She must be well attested for her good works as one who has brought up children, shown hospitality, washed the saints' feet, helped the afflicted, and devoted herself to doing good in every way. But refuse to put younger widows on the list, for when their sensual desires alienate them for Christ, they want to marry, and so they incur condemnation for having violated their first pledge. Besides that, they learn to be idle, gadding about from house to house, and they are not merely idle, but also gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not say. So I would have younger widows marry, bear children, and manage their households, so as to give the adversary no occasion to revile us. For some have already turned away to follow Satan. If any believing woman has relatives who are really widows, let her assist them. Let the church not be burdened, so that it can assist those who are real widows." Pretty interesting stuff, isn't it? The writer is aware that the word widow is not necessarily a catch-all, but that different kinds of widows may be in dramatically different kinds of circumstances. A widow with a lot of family, for example, might not have the same level of need as a childless widow who has no family to support her to fall back on. The one might need little or no support from the community, while the other might be completely dependent on the generosity of the community. What is really fascinating to me is the way he talks about one group of widows who have learned to be idle, gadding about from house to house, he says, and spreading gossip. I think we have all experienced people like this, even in the life of the church. Paul has very little patience for this kind of behavior. In the first place, these busybodies dilute the resources available to serve the truly needy, and they, with their idle gossip, then threaten to unravel the very fabric of the church community. You've seen it happen, and so have I. Gossip will tear a church apart. What is so surprising here is to see it written down so plainly. I suspect that if the writer had been addressing the whole community in this letter, he might have written more carefully, more tactfully. But since this is a personal letter, one that he would have assumed would stay between the two of them, he apparently felt freer to speak his true mind. What it really shows us is that life in the community of faith is often messy. Widows are not simply a class of people who are all the same. Some can be idle busybodies, while others can be deeply devout. Some can require the financial support of the community, while others accept community support even though they have other means of support. It would be tempting in such a circumstance to simply cut off all widows as a general rule, thus punishing the truly needy because of the misbehavior of some. But that's not where this writer goes. There are still people in need, and they do not deserve to be punished simply because others in somewhat similar circumstances take advantage of the community's generosity. It's a helpful lesson even for us today. Do not lump everybody together, but take account of the individual circumstances of each. And do not ever think that everyone in the church operates from pure motives. There were Gadabouts then, just as there are Gadabouts now. Some things never change. Tomorrow, we'll finish our walk through 1 Timothy with a warning about wealth. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.